This is Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online, on DAB+, and on the Talk Radio app. Evenings with Kevin O'Sullivan.
On Talk Radio.
Taking your calls later on in this hour, 03444991000, or you can text us right, talking your message and send it to 87222, or you can tweet us at Talk Radio. Also coming up in this hour, Jack the Ripper tours of London. The Victorian serial killers, female victims are apparently being exploited by these tours, and woke warriors want to ban them. So we'll be talking about that later, and also hear all about the world's worst golfer, the worst ever contestant in the British Open golf tournament. They've made a film about him. He conned his way into the tournament and scored a very high score. We'll hear all about it in just a little while. Now we're going to talk about Insulate Britain. We're going to talk about climate change right now. I was amused yesterday to see in the London paper, the Evening Standard, a picture of a ridiculous looking woman being sort of hauled off the top of some tube train by a lot of officials and coppers. Her name is Cathy Eastburn. She is a member of Insulate Britain. She said she was going to unleash hell on Britain, but she was able to get onto the tube by using her husband's free pass, because her husband earns £170,000 a year as a director of Transport for London, the London transport system. He also had a job of keeping the traffic flowing around the capital, so he keeps the traffic flowing, and Cathy keeps the traffic stopped. These people are prepared to take extreme measures. Benedict Plowden is her husband. He's leaving the TfL at the end of this month after what was called a staggeringly inappropriate situation in terms of a man like him being married to an Insulate Britain obsessive protester. She's been arrested several times around the M25. We're going to talk now about these ongoing protests. There was another one this morning by the Dartford crossing, very busy part of the London road system. Let's have a little listen to one of the stars of the show.
Okay, I'm Dr. Diana Warner, retired GP. I'm glued to the road because this is what it's taking to protect our children.
Whereabouts?
And it seems to be making a difference. People are coming to thank us. So I would ask you if you think that what we are asking is important, to take action, to try and take that step, to take any action, however small.
Let's talk to a spokesperson for Insulate Britain, Liam Norton. Good evening, Liam.
Hi, Kevin. How's it going, mate?
Okay. Were you on the demonstration this morning?
No, I wasn't there today.
Why couldn't you make it? I thought you liked to go to these demos.
I have been on the road a couple of times in this campaign. I'm doing other bits and pieces for them as well.
What do you think you're achieving by blocking all these roads? Because I would suggest the only thing you're achieving is really, really annoying and upsetting hundreds of thousands of people, motorists, people trying to get to work, people trying to take their kids to school, ambulances trying to get patients to hospital, delivery people trying to get their vans and their trucks to their delivery destinations. You're just upsetting a load of people, so people have gone right off your cause. It's not a very good campaign you got going, is it?
It's not a cause, Kevin. It's about people starving to death.
No, it's not.
Well, that's where you're unable to emotionally connect with the truth. And if you're unable to connect with that, it's really difficult to connect with what it is that we're doing.
What is the truth that I'm emotionally unable to connect to?
Well, what Robert Moritz says, and he's not an eco nut, as you like to call people. He's the chairman of PricewaterhouseCoopers, who are one of the biggest accountancy firms in the world. And this is what he says: climate change is the most formidable challenge humanity has had to face since World War II. So you're playing a really dangerous game, Kevin.
No, I'm not. I say he's wrong, and I say you're wrong.
Yeah, I know, and that's where you're playing a really dangerous game, because people like you and your views,
Well, my views are just my views are different to yours. I'm not imbued by a sense of certitude. You people are full of certitude. You do understand that total certitude is a mental condition.
Yeah, and you understand that, if
you think you are 100% right, don't you?
Well,
yes or no?
Like
do you think you're 100% right?
No, nothing can be 100%.
Right. Okay. So you might be wrong then.
Well, no, because what you enter into is
if you're not 100% sure, you might be wrong.
Kevin, I'm happy to have a conversation with you, but if you don't,
I'm just picking you up on
then
that.
I can speak.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So let's look at the Chatham House report, which says there's a 95% chance we're going to go over 2 degrees. Now, there's 5% chance that we won't, but the likelihood is we will. So let's look at other groups. I mean, the Met Office, they know a little bit more about weather than you, Kevin. Is that right?
Well, I would imagine they do, yes.
Okay, so what they said is that flash flooding is looking like it's going to be 5 times more likely going into the future.
And why are they saying that's that's not necessarily anything to do with human beings, is it? No one is denying climate change, Liam. What we are suspicious of, many of us, is that it's all down to human beings. It's all down to us. We believe it's something to do with the natural process of this planet, that the climate has always changed and it always will.
Well, you're in the minority, and it's an uneducated view, unfortunately. And what you'll be seen as is people that really let down this country, and you're facilitating the destruction of capitalism.
When will that be seen? When will I be seen as that?
In the next 10 or 20 years, you're going to see what's going on. But what you sound
like... I say, Liam, you're wrong.
Kevin, stop interrupting me.
No, I can interrupt you.
What you sound like is somebody who's on the Titanic.
I say you're wrong. Do you understand what I'm saying? You're
I
wrong.
understand what you're saying.
You're wrong.
What you sound like is somebody that's on the Titanic, hurtling towards the iceberg, saying that everything's fine.
Well, you've been rehearsing that one,
and that's what you sound like.
No, I don't. I don't sound like that at all.
That's how history is going to.
Let me tell you something, Liam. There is no such thing as the climate change emergency. You lot have stuck the word emergency after climate change, and you've hit on something. It is not an emergency.
Do you understand what the carbon lag is?
Tell me.
It takes 10 years for the carbon that's burnt.
Well, that's not an emergency if it's 10 years, is it? You don't phone up the fire brigade and say, could you come and put my house is on fire, can you come around in 10 years?
Do you understand what global dimming is?
What's that?
It's that if we reduce emissions, temperatures are actually going to go up. Do you understand what the Blue Ocean event is, Kevin?
What's all this about?
Do you understand what the Blue Ocean event is?
Do you understand that you're just talking nonsense?
No, because you're not reading up. You're not a proper journalist, and you're not reading up on all the things that are going on. The Arctic's about to melt. This is happening before our eyes.
Yeah, sure.
It's all happening.
Why don't
if you want to know what the weather's doing, Kevin,
and what do you think?
Look
Liam,
out the window.
Liam, what do you think that you are going to achieve here in Britain? Britain, whatever we do in Britain, will not make a blind bit of difference to this planet or to climate change, because we only produce 1% of the world's pollution. Why don't you go to Beijing and demonstrate there, where they produce 28% of the world's pollution, where they've got 1,882 coal-fueled power stations. They're building 185 new ones. They've just announced they're going to build a whole load more than that, and they're also going to start exploring big time for oil and gas. So there's your villain, not Britain. We cannot do anything in this country to sort climate change out. We do not produce enough pollution.
We led the world into the Industrial Revolution, and we can lead it out. It's about honour and integrity.
Oh, come
on. That's
what
this is about.
Get real.
Well, that's what
Go
to
Beijing. Go to the Chinese embassy. Don't blame people on the M25. Do you understand, Liam, that we in this country, if we went back to horses and carts, got rid of all electricity, got rid of all cars, went back to feudal times, it would not make a blind bit of difference to climate change, to this planet. Do you understand that?
Yeah, and what Insulate Britain is talking about is the millions of people in our country that are living in fuel poverty. that can't afford to pay their bills.
How many millions?
There's 2.4 million households in the UK that are living in fuel poverty.
I'd say
that's at least 5.5 million kids.
Yeah. Where'd you get that from? Where'd you get that statistic? You know, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. You just made that up.
No, you can go and look at the Fuel Poverty Action website.
Oh yeah, I'll take that as read.
Well, that's a fact, okay?
It's not a fact. You made it. It's not a fact. It's a statistic.
Go to the Office of National Statistics, Kevin. You'll see 28,000 excess winter deaths for last year. 8,500 of them were related directly to fuel poverty. Okay, so the Chinese government don't have a responsibility to stop our elderly.
I'll tell you what it is. What it is, Liam, is you all suffer from a psychological problem. You're attention seekers. You are holier than thou. You're pious. You want to look down on the rest of us, and you're anti-modernist. You don't like the modern world. You don't like cars. You're all failures. You don't like people succeeding.
Kevin Sullivan on the radio talking about attention seekers. Come on, mate.
Well, to present a radio program, that doesn't make you an attention seeker.
Well, what does it make you then?
Well, you're an attention seeker, obviously.
What I want your listeners to understand, the few of them that I can get through to, is that the government are selling them out, right? That's what's going on here. Yeah, and the longer we see the effects,
you're selling this planet out by not concentrating on the major villain in terms of carbon emissions. That's China. You're wasting your time on a little country that produces 1% of the world pollution. Nothing we can do in this country will change a damn thing about climate change.
It sounds like a really weak position, and it sounds like somebody who's not very patriotic and doesn't believe in the strength of Britain. That's what you sound like.
I don't believe
you sound like an appeaser. You sound like somebody who's an appeaser with no strength, talking about how China hold all the cards. And it's ridiculous.
They do.
It's ridiculous. Well, I don't believe that actually.
Well, I do.
And it sounds weak. Okay. Well, you're saying China have all the power in the world. Do you? Liam, is that what you think?
Yeah, I do actually, Liam.
Okay, so they're going to take over the world, are they?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Oh well.
Certainly.
That's a nice patriotic position that you're taking.
We're not talking about patriotism. We're talking about reality.
Of course we are. We're talking about the future of our country, and you're selling the people.
The future of our country is meaningless when it comes to climate change. There's nothing we can do. We don't produce enough pollution.
You're a nihilist. You're saying the future of our country is meaningless, and it's a pathetic position, and it's without honour and integrity. And I'd like to ask the people that are listening to this program to understand that your views are selling them out, and we've got the ability to change something.
No, you haven't. You're not going to change. You are not going to change
us on the road.
You are not going to change a damn thing. You're not going to change it.
People know that this government are failing. Look at the shelves. Look, they can't even get the containers out. This government are an absolute joke, and everybody listening to this program knows it, right? So let's get out on the streets and let's do something about it. We've got the power to sort this out.
No, you haven't.
Ordinary people in this country.
You do realise, Liam. Of course, you all know this. You are never going to insulate Britain. No one is listening to you. You're completely wasting your time.
No one's listening to me now, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. I just want to ask you a final question. It has been fun talking to you, Liam, and I do appreciate you coming on. Seriously.
Thanks, mate. I do. Thanks for having me.
But one last question. I'm going to accept, because certitude is a mental illness, that I could be wrong. Are you going to accept that you could be wrong?
It's always a possibility.
Yeah, exactly. So, given that you could be wrong, you should really rethink your tactics. And I do think.
I don't think I am.
I do think seriously. I do think seriously. You ought to look to China. We're not the villains here. We're really not.
I completely agree with you. We're not the villains, and we can get ourselves out of this mess.
Yeah, and
we can protect the millions of our citizens that are living in fuel poverty.
And you're not going to insulate Britain, and there aren't millions of people living in fuel poverty. But listen, thanks very much for your time, Liam. It was a pleasure. Liam Norton there, spokesman for Insulate Britain. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and this is Talk Radio.
Online